Though the chants of the crowd roared around them, Rolf and Sam had their eyes closed in concentration as their throats moved up and down, down and up, chugging their mugs of ale. And Selenia, watching from behind her mask, could not stop laughing. It wasn't hard to pretend Sam was drunk, and they were having the grandest time in the world. Mostly because of her mask, but also because Sam played the part very, very well. Rolf slammed his mug on the table, letting out a satisfying and wiping his wet mouth on his sleeve as the gathered crowd cheered. Selenia cackled, her masked face oozing sweat. Like every place else on this island, the tavern was suffocatingly hot, and the odour of ale and unwashed bodies poured from every crevice and stone. It was packed to capacity. A three-man ensemble made up of an accordion, a fiddle, and a tambourine played raucously in the corner by the hearth. Pirates swapped stories and called for their favourite songs. Peasants and lowlives drank themselves into oblivion and gambled on rigged games for chance. Harlots patrolled the room, milling around tables and sitting on laps. Across from her, Rolf grinned, and Sam drained the last of his mug. Or so Rolf thought. Given how often drinks were spilled and splashed, no one really noticed the constant puddle around Sam's mug, and the hole he'd drilled into the bottom of it was too small to detect. "Well," Rolf said, "I think it's safe to say I prefer you like this to when we're discussing business." Sam leaned in, a conspirator's grin on his face. "Oh, I do, too. She's horrible most of the time." Selenia kicked him. Hard enough, because she knew it wasn't entirely a lie. And Sam yelped. Rolf chuckled. She flipped the barmaid a copper as she refilled Rolf's and Sam's mugs. "So, will I ever get to see the face behind the legendary Selenia Saradothin?" Rolf leaned forward to rest his arms on the sodden table. The clock behind the bar read 3:30 in the morning. They had to act soon, given how crowded the tavern was, and how many pirates were already halfway unconscious. It was a miracle there was any ale left in Skulls Bay. If a Robin and Rolf didn't kill her for freeing the slaves, then Rolf might very well murder her for starting a tab, with not nearly enough gold to pay for it all. She leaned closer to Rolf. "If you make my master and me as much money as you claim, I'll show you my face." Rolf glanced at the tattooed map on his hands. "Did you really sell your soul for that?" she asked. "When you show me your face, I'll tell you the truth." She extended her hand. "Deal." He shook it. Sam raised his mug, already drained half an inch from a small hole in the bottom, and saluted their promise before both men drank. She fished out a pack of cards from her cloak. "Care for a game of kings?" "If you aren't beggared by the time this night is over," Rolf said, "then playing against me will guarantee it." She clicked her tongue. "Oh, I highly doubt that." She broke and shuffled the deck 3 times and dealt the cards. The hours passed by in a series of clanking glasses and perfect card suits, group singing sessions and tales of lands far and near. And as the clock was silented by the never-ending music, Selenia found herself leaning into Sam's shoulder. laughing as Rolf finished a crude and absurd story of the farmer's wife and her stallions. She banged her fists on the table, howling. And that wasn't entirely an act, either. As Sam slipped a hand around her waist, his touch somehow sending a bright hot flame through her. She had to wonder if he was still pretending too. In terms of cards, it turned out to be Sam who took them for everything they were worth. And by the time the clock hands pointed to 5, Rolf had shifted into a foul mood. Unfortunately for him, that mood wasn't about to improve. Sam gave Selenia a nod, and she tripped a passing pirate, who spilled his drink on an already belligerent man, who in turn tried to punch him in the face, but hit the man next to him instead. By luck, at that moment, a trick card fell out of the man's sleeve. A prostitute slapped a pirate wench, and the tavern exploded into a brawl. People wrestled one another to the ground, some pirates drawing swords and daggers to try and duel their way across the floor. Others jumped from the mezzanine to join the fight, swinging themselves across the railings, either attempting to land on tables or aiming for the iron chandelier and missing badly. The music still played, but the musicians rose and backed further into the corner. Rolf, half standing, put a hand on his hilt. Selenia gave him a nod before drawing her own sword and charging into the brawling crowd. With deft flicks of her wrist, she cut somebody's arm and ripped another's leg open, but didn't actually kill anyone. She just needed to keep the fight going, and escalated enough to hold all eyes on the town. As she made to slip towards the exit, someone grabbed her around the waist and threw her into a wooden pillar so hard she knew she'd have a bruise. She squirmed in the red-faced pirate's grasp, nearly gagging as his sour breath seeped through her mask. She'd got her arm free enough to thrust the pommel of her sword between his legs. He dropped to the ground like a stone. Selenia barely got a step away before a hairy fist slammed into her jaw. Pain blinded her like lightning, and she tasted blood in her mouth. She quickly felt her mask to ensure it wasn't cracked or about to fall off. Dodging the next blow, she swept her foot behind the man's knee and sent him careening into a yowling cluster of harlots. She didn't know where Sam had gone, but if he was sticking to the plan, then she didn't need to worry about him. Weaving through the snarls of fighting pirates, Selenia headed towards the exit, clashing her blade against several unskilled swords. A pirate with a frayed eye patch raised a clumsy hand to strike her, but Selenia caught it and kicked him in the stomach, sending him flying into another man. They both hit a table, flipping it over, and began fighting between themselves. Animals. Selenia stalked through the crowd and out of the front door of the tavern. To her delight, the streets weren't much better. The fighting had spread with astonishing speed, up and down the avenue. Pirates wrestled and duelled and rolled on the ground. Apparently, she hadn't been the only one eager for a fight. Reveling in the mayhem, she was halfway down the street, heading towards the meet-up point with Sam, when Rolf's voice boomed out from behind her. Enough! Everyone lifted whatever they had in their hands. A mug, a sword, a clump of hair, and saluted. And then promptly resumed fighting. Laughing to herself, Selenia hurried down an alley. Sam was already there, with blood seeping from his nose. But his eyes were bright. "I'd say that went pretty well," he said. "I never knew you were such an expert at cards." She looked him up and down. His stance was steady. "Or an expert drunkard." He grinned. "There's a lot you don't know about me, Selenia." He grabbed her shoulder, suddenly closer than she'd like. "Ready?" he asked, and she nodded, looking to the lightening sky. "Let's go." She pulled out of his grasp and yanked her gloves off, stuffing them into her pocket. "The watch at the tower must have changed by now. We've got until dawn to disable that chain, and the catapults." They debated for a while about whether it would be more useful to just destroy the chain from its unguarded opposite side. But even if they did, they'd still have the catapults to contend with. It was better to risk the guards and take out both the chain and the catapults at once. "If we live through this, Selenia," Sam said, heading towards the side of the street that led to the docks, "remind me to teach you how to play cards properly." She cursed, colourfully enough to make him laugh, and launched into a run. They turned onto a quiet street, just as someone stepped out of the shadows. "Going somewhere?" It was Rolf.